Hello and welcome to another topic here as we're discussing missions and missiology. And this one is the fourth industrial revolution and its implications for missions. So going specifically into the topic of technology, because I think that technology is a key element when we want to understand the world that we live in today. And one way to describe the different developments that we're seeing in technology is to talk about the fourth industrial revolution. I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute, of course. And so what we have here is our overview. First, some historical context of the fourth industrial revolution. It's maybe a term that not all of us are familiar with. Then we'll talk about the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about implications of the fourth industrial revolution. But starting with the historical context, so when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, it may be a term that people are not familiar with in the sense that when they think about the industrial revolution, they think about the steam engine, they think about what happened in England in the 18th and 19th century, that factories were being built, and especially the coal and the steel industry was very important. And it started in England and then also became a major transformative force in other countries. Um, and certainly when we talk about the fourth industrial revolution, it goes back to that. So if there was a fourth industrial revolution, there also was a first, second, and third, right? And so generally when people talk about the first industrial revolution or just about the industrial revolution in general, they refer to a time frame of the 18th century. And even though there were many inventions and important developments that took place, but the steam engine is at the very heart of the first industrial revolution. And then some people say that what then happened in the 19th century warrants the description second industrial revolution, because that's when electricity was introduced, which also had a huge transformational effect, of course. And then the third industrial revolution is what we see in the 20th century, especially in the second half of the 20th century, meaning after World War II, with the development of computers. And now in the 21st century, we possibly live in the area of the fourth industrial revolution, of another major shift that's taken place, which is powered by AI, artificial intelligence, as well as many other technologies, as we'll see in a minute. So another way to describe this is that there's a timeline, right? There's a timeline from the first industrial revolution in the 18th century to the second in the 19th and 20th century, to the third in the late 20th century, and now in the early 21st century, we're beginning to see uh, the merging of different technologies that work together, and one of them is AI, artificial intelligence, and how that interacts with massive amounts of information, like what we might call big data, or information that's saved somewhere in the cloud. People talk about the IoT, the Internet of Things, where it's not only human beings accessing the internet through a computer or a smartphone, but it's also machines being connected with each other and different devices. For example, in your home, like in a smart home, you would also have a fridge, for example, that is connected to the internet. Um, and in a factory or a warehouse, you would have machines and even products be all connected, because they would all have sensors and chips in them. So there's different people who have talked about the fourth industrial revolution, usually from a secular point of view. One of them is Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum. He has been emphasizing this development, and here's a little video that we can watch about that. And I hope it will work out here with this embedded video, and that you'll be able to see and hear it. as you can see, there's a lot of enthusiasm in that video. There's also a lot of different topics that are addressed, right? Topics that have to do with political, social, economic um, dimensions of the fourth industrial revolution, or consequences that might come out of these technological changes. But the technologies that drive the fourth industrial revolution are really foundational to all these disruptions, and that's why it's worth mentioning them. So generally, when people talk about the fourth industrial revolution, they talk about technologies like artificial intelligence, AI, advanced robotics, the Internet of Things, IoT, virtual reality, VR, biotechnology, blockchain technologies, nanotechnology, quantum computing, 3D printing, energy storage, geoengineering, and space technologies. And some of these were mentioned in the video. So an example of the development of artificial intelligence is how what we can observe in terms of a development over time is how machines have performed when it comes to playing games that require a certain amount of thinking or strategy, as we would call it, as human beings. So here we have a picture of Marion Tinsley, who has already passed away. So he was a man of the 20th century, but he's by many considered the greatest checkers player of all time. And then in 1994, he played against a computer program, 6 games, and it was all draws, right? So a good performance of a computer program, but nothing that would totally shock people in the sense of, oh, my machines are taking over. That was different when Garry Kasparov played against Deep Blue, a computer program developed by IBM, and again, it wasn't like he was totally destroyed by Deep Blue, but Deep Blue did win one of the games, and that's when Kasparov realized that an era had ended, namely the era where humans are the best chess players in the world. Now we know that computer programs like Deep Blue are the best chess players in the world, and of course now there are many advanced programs, and more recently we had Lee Sedol, a Korean master of the game of called Go, which has a long tradition in China. He was playing against a computer program that was developed called AlphaGo, and same thing. He did great, but he also lost a game, and it was a great sensation. So all these developments have shown that computers have made progress, and artificial intelligence has made considerable progress. Now, of course, one could argue that, okay, chess is a pretty complex game. Go is even more complex in the sense that it has more fields where you can put your pieces. But what about traffic, right? Traffic is so much more complex than any kind of game, because in traffic, there are some clearly defined rules, but people do not always they do not always follow the rules. It's an open environment with a tremendous amount of complexities, and so AI is being used to advance the cause of driverless cars, of autonomous vehicles, and there has been a considerable progress, but there are still issues to be solved. But if and when autonomous driving is solved, then that would be a major disruption to the whole transportation industry, both for car transport, but also for trucks and the transportation of goods. Another example of a disruptive technology is the whole area of medical applications, right? And here we have an example of a young man who sits in the wheelchair, and he cannot use his hand. So if he wants to use a computer, he needs, traditionally he had to use a device with in his mouth, and then use a computer mouse or the keyboard of a computer. And he likes to play computer games. He likes to play Civilization and also chess, as we see here on the picture. But the problem was it was very tiring using those devices. And now the company Neuralink implanted a chip in his brain, and through that he can navigate the mouse and navigate the computer through his thoughts. So there's a connection between his brain and the computer directly, a direct connection, and so that's just a major breakthrough in in the area of medicine, and more to come, not only with brain implants but also other technologies that might be related to gene editing, for example. And then again, one of the technologies that we talk about is space technologies, and we've seen private companies like SpaceX sending rockets into space, which traditionally was only something that governments would do. So there's more competition, there's more innovation in the area of space, and that's why there are also more people now dreaming about going to the moon again, mining asteroids, or maybe settling on Mars one day. And if and when that happens, there would also be a major shift in human history and how we see ourselves and how we see planet Earth. So some of the implications of the fourth industrial revolution, if we talk about it from an economic point of view, first of all, manufacturing will change. In fact, before the term fourth industrial revolution became popular, the German government, a couple of years before that, already used the term manufacturing 4.0, because Germany is a manufacturing powerhouse, and so that's what the German government in particular was interested in, how manufacturing would change. But beyond that, work, education, and entertainment will change. Really, every sphere of life will change because of these technologies. And in the long term, maybe even we as human beings, through gene editing, maybe even our biological setup will change, at least for some people who want to go in that direction. So that leads to the question: what are the missiological implications of the fourth industrial revolution? So here's one question. So if we're thinking about the whole area of entertainment, visualization, right? How people spend their free time, how they acquire and process information, then I think one of the questions we need to ask is, what steps should mission agencies and churches be taking to use AI and VR to present their message, right? Just like nowadays, it's totally normal for not only for companies, but also for churches to have a website. I think it's conceivable that in 10, 20 years from now, it will be totally normal for any church or any Christian ministry to have VR applications where people can experience their ministry and hear and see the gospel message in a new way. Then in the whole area of medicine, what are the ethical implications of genetic engineering, right? Those are going to be some huge questions. And of course, a lot of Christians are quick to say that we don't want to see designer babies, that this would be playing God. And there are also secular um, authors who use that phrase, right? Who say that, well, somewhere we have to draw the line. But of course, the question is, what if somebody's life can be dramatically improved through these technologies? That is something we need to think about. Then what do we say then? Then in terms of security and international security, how will warfare change through the use of autonomous weapon systems, AWS, they are sometimes called? Again, there are a lot of people who are deeply concerned about that, who are calling for a ban of autonomous weapons, who make the argument that the decision to kill another human being always has to be made by another human being, not by a machine. But what if in the more long-term future, war could become something that is only exercised by machines, where you only have machines from one country fighting against machines from other countries, and you don't have human soldiers anymore, and you therefore also don't have human casualties anymore. Then in our daily lives, what kind of jobs will be left for humans as robots and AI systems becoming more and more capable, right? That's going to be a huge question that will affect all of us. And work is such an important part of most people's lives, right? A lot of times when we meet someone for the first time, one of the first questions we ask is, what do you do for a living? And so if that is going to change what people do for a living, then that will have massive implications for how we see ourselves, how our societies function, and the question will be what does the church have to say to all of that? And last but not least, why or why not should humans become a multiplanetary species? Right? It brings up theological questions. When God entrusted the earth to Adam and Eve to cultivate the garden and to populate the whole world, did he just mean planet Earth by that, or did he also mean other planets by that? That could be one of the questions we could be asking. And with that, I want to thank you for your attention. I look forward to your insights and thoughts. So please feel free to comment online, to post your comments in the comment section. And with that, I say goodbye for now and see you next time.